So now we move on to our finale, which is Barbie or Barbie. I'm going to let you go first if you would like
Oh
to,
boy.
because I know I have thoughts about the movie, or maybe I should go first. It doesn't matter.
I like to hear your thoughts first. We've
Okay.
talked about it a little bit on a
Yeah.
community post.
Yeah.
So I kind of know where this is probably going to go a little bit, but I
hmm
would like to hear your full thoughts and like it played out and stuff like that. I'm interested to hear.
Sure. Spoilers for Barbie. Just want to put that out there. So, Barbie, I know you like it. I didn't like it. Well, actually, let me step back. Step all the way back. Barbie is well made, phenomenal cast. Margot Robbie, Issa Rae, Kingsley Benadir, Simu Ryan Gosling, obviously. Just
Michael Cera.
America
Yeah.
Ferrera. Phenomenal cast. Like one of the Will Ferrell. One of the best. Like if you said, "Hey, I'm putting these people in my movie," you're probably going to have a good movie, right? It's a
Yeah.
good chance you're going to have a good
You
movie.
can stack it up against the
Um,
Oppenheimer cast.
you really could, right? Yeah, you
Yeah.
really could actually. Oh yeah, and also costume design, phenomenal. Set design, incredible, especially in Barbie Land. Human World, eh, Barbie
Eh,
Land,
we don't
phenomenal,
have much.
right?
We don't have
I
much to
think that
do in
yeah, and
human
I think that
world.
was kind of the purpose of Human World was kind of
Yeah.
say, this look at this mundane shit, yeah.
Bland
So
shit.
yeah, but yeah, so I think I enjoyed a lot of the movie, right? Laughed quite a bit. I thought that the performances were good. However, I did think that the writing fell apart when they tried to when they were going for what their message was, particularly in the final act, the final third of the film. And the reason why I say that the reason I feel that way is because once they started going after the patriarch, oh, let me also say, I don't disagree with their message. It was the way that it was communicated that I had an issue.
Execution.
And
Mhm.
actually, there are some parts of the message that I did disagree with, and we'll get to that because I don't have a problem expressing that. The execution of it, because at a certain point when it's just the Barbie and America Ferrera return to Barbie Land, and they find out that Ken has taken over after. We'll get into this too. Ken has taken over and stuff like that. It it read like a Twitter thread, in my opinion, because a lot of
Mm.
it was just felt the movie felt like it had the weight of the world on it, the weight of women on it, and that it had to hit every single talking point, valid talking point, I should add, that is in the ether right now, and I just felt like it was weighed down because of it, because of the way that it was presented. It was literally like the patriarchy. And we had it in the patriarchy. It was like, I agree, the patriarchy is bad. Like it's terrible. It's done terrible things to both men and women, right? So I'm not, yeah, I'm saying, but I just felt like the way that it was communicated could have been more clever. I think that one of the discussions I've had earlier this week, I came to the conclusion that I like seeing these messages communicated through actions more so than just dialogue alluding to what the issue is or stating directly what the issue is. I think that you can state directly what the issue is, like because eventually all movies eventually just state what it is, but it didn't just finally come to the conclusion. The third act was, this is the entirety of our dialogue for the rest of this movie, and it just felt, like I said, felt like a Twitter thread. The dialogue did, not the message. Understand the message, but the dialogue felt like a Twitter thread. And I know, like, some of the rebuttals I've gotten, I don't know if I should even go into them, but some of the rebuttals that I've gotten have been, it's made to be accessible for, I'll actually leave that to when you have your point, so I don't like 8 mile this thing. So, so yeah, so that's my basic thoughts on it. It just got a little overbearing at the end and how the message was communicated. Earlier in the week, I compared it to They Clone Tyrone, obviously two very different movies, but I'm talking about more so the method of they cloned Tyrone did a great job of communicating its message through actions that the characters did, realizations on faces that the characters had, and so on and so forth. And also, here's the last thing I'm going to say about it, or just two more things I'm going to say about it. Is one,
What's the rush,
I,
bro? Just you can keep going. I'm fine with it. Don't feel like you have to
um,
rush so I can go. I'm absorbing everything.
oh, thank you. Yeah, because I was like, I want to talk for too long. But yeah, so one, I felt like a lot of the characters who are people of color were really like, yes, they were on screen, but they were really in the background. And I was kind of like, yo, Issa Rae's dope. Kingsley Benadir is dope. Simu is dope. Simu probably had the biggest part in this. But after
Okay.
watching Kingsley Benadir kill it for the 5 weeks of Secret Invasion that I had watched before that, and then after, you know,
The
realizing that he
shade
was
of 5 weeks.
right, realizing that he was Malcolm X and Regina King's One Night in Miami,
It's
realizing
gonna
that
be
it was
Bob
Kingsley
Marley.
Benadir to watch, and he's going to be Bob Marley, to watch him just be handed things for by Gosling for like 2 hours. I'm not gonna say it wasn't 3 hours, for like 2 hours. It was just like, dog, this is a waste of talent, right? And I think I felt weird about that critique at times because I'm talking about a male and obviously a female directed movie. Although I do believe it is for everyone. I'm not saying that men can't watch it. That would be a dumb thing for me to say. It did really feel like the talent that is Issa Rae and Kingsley Benadir and Stephen, they just were in the background. You know what I mean? It just felt, yeah, that was unsatisfactory. And the other thing, I have come to the conclusion that I'm willing to have a conversation about, of course, that the Barbies don't have a leg to stand on in terms of them desiring and wanting equality and so on and so forth. I understand the women in the real world wanting that and stuff like that, but in Barbie Land, they're literally doing the same thing that men are legitimately doing in the real world. And when it comes to Ryan Gosling or Ken, Ryan Gosling's Ken character, going to the real world and finding out that he has some sort of value. Obviously, this value, the version of this value is toxic. Finding out that he has value, respect, people actually want to hear from him, except for they don't really, but he just they actually like treat him as if, or he finds out that men are treated like they matter in the real world, as opposed to the world that where he came from. I
Where
don't
he's
find
serving.
it far fetched that he would go back home and try to implement the same thing. I'm not saying he did the right thing. I'm saying I understand why he would do that, right? So when
Mhm.
Barbie comes home and she's like, "Oh my God, look at what the men have done. They're treating us so horrible. I feel ugly." I'm like, "You guys were oh, like separating them. You guys were essentially oppressing them. And that's a really strong word, but you guys were essentially like the people who were not keeping them down, but keeping them so separate that they didn't even feel like they were part of society." The beginning of the movie, it stated that the Kens don't feel good about themselves unless a Barbie looks at them, and it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, so I understand the parallel there, but when the Barbies start, oh my God, we got to take it back. It just felt like the this is going to be wild. It just felt like when people of majority culture, I should say, um, are in a sense given a taste of their medicine, or they're being treated in a way that they treat others, and then they cry and they pout and they act like everyone else is the problem. How could you take this away? It's I have a video coming out about this tomorrow, which I talk about legacy characters, where when White Spider-Man or Iron Man or whoever goes away for a person of color, is like, they're taking that away from me. They're taking over. I can't believe that, they're taking down, and that's honestly how I felt about the Barbies when they were like, "Oh my God, they're taking everything." And so, obviously, they were being toxic. The men were. However, it's hard for me to feel empathetic for you when you were the one who was doing the thing to the Kens. And then at the end of the movie, even if you want to say that they learned about equality, at the end of the movie when one of the Kens says, "Oh, hey, can we be on the higher court?" And she says, "No, the highest you can aspire to is the lower courts." I'm like, "Yo, you just threw out your whole point. Like the if the point is equality, and the man who recognizes they're wrong and stuff like that are now saying, "Hey, can we elevate to be on equal playing field with you instead of like that other world where things are not that way?" And they say, "No, no, we're not going to let that happen." I'm like, "Dog, what are we? What's the lesson here?" You know what I mean? So that's kind of that was my grievance with the movie. Other than that, love Greta Gerwig. Little Women is
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, yes, it is. I just recently did that for my channel.
Little Little
Great
Women is
movie.
great, and it's not even a movie that would be up my alley, but I saw it during like Oscar season a couple years ago, and it was so good. And
Yeah.
all the performers I mentioned are great. And in my review, which as soon as I'm done editing it, I put out, I also mentioned that I still want people to have fun when they go see it. The thing I've loved the most about this movie has nothing to do with this movie. It's all the people who are dressed in pink going out to have a good time. It's been
Yeah.
great seeing that. Fathers, daughters, moms, grandmoms, all dressed in pink going to have a great time. Love that. Love seeing that. So that those are essentially my thoughts about the movie. And yeah, that's it.
I loved it. I loved how well thought that was out. You didn't have nothing written. You've been thinking about this, and that was great because a
Yeah.
lot of discourse around this has been toxic, and the negative reviews that I've seen have made me feel like the people didn't understand what the movie was trying to tell them. But you understand what the movie is trying to tell you, just don't like the message, and that's different.
Right.
Completely two different things. For me personally, I love this movie.
Okay.
It's right under Oppenheimer. If you're asking which one's better, I think Oppenheimer edges it out just a bit, just because it's just a masterclass in Oppenheimer. And I don't think it's a master. Greta Gerwig does a fantastic job, but it's not a masterclass. There's certain filmmaking things that was done towards the middle of the film that kind of brings it down a bit. But the movie's probably the most original film that we've gotten this year. It's funny as hell from beginning to end to me. It's the funniest film that I've seen all year. And I've seen three other really funny films this year. They Clone Tyrone, Strays, and Joyride. Oh, and also no four and No Hard Feelings, which I love.
Yeah.
There's probably some other comedies I've seen, but to me, Barbie made me laugh the hardest. I love that it committed to it. It didn't like dilly dally, like, oh, maybe we don't want to do it because we're gonna offend someone. No, she went for it, judging
Absolutely.
Mattel for their practices, having a different conversation so
Yeah.
that we can have this conversation right now we're having on about this movie that we're not having about Oppenheimer. We didn't have to have a difficult conversation about that movie. It was pretty straightforward. But this movie has a message and an execution that makes people have to have a conversation. Ryan Gosling was phenomenal,
He was.
and he was so funny. And he's finally getting his flowers because I think he's been one of the best actors in the world for a long time. He's just not getting any flowers because people do not want to pay to see him. He's just one of those actors that
Mm.
he can't star in movies.
He's
Unfortunately, him and
Jake
Jake
Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, both great,
Yeah.
great actors. People will not pay
Yep.
to see them. But I don't want to say. But I think a lot of people with the discussion of Ryan Gosling have been overlooking Margot Robbie, who does maybe the best performance of her career in this film because she has to do so much from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, going from perfect Barbie to start slowly turning into average, depressed, whatever America Ferrera's character was doing to her, coming back
Mhm.
into a human mix Barbie, then finally becoming a human. And what a strong ending it had too for me, in terms of like her going to the gynecologist. I thought that was hilarious. I think the things that you had a problem with and then you just explained was why I liked the movie so
Okay.
much. I think that Greta Gerwig wasn't positioning the characters for you to be empathetic for them on purpose. She was presenting them as they were. And whatever message you got, if you understand the message, because it was just like, yeah, we want equality. But at the end of the day, the people who are in the majority are always going to want to be the majority because that's the nice place to be in. So yeah, the Barbies, they've been positioned as these fun characters that seem likable, but at the end of the day, they're still doing the messed up thing. And that was really hit hard when Ken looked at Barbie and was like, you don't like this. You don't like how this feel, right? Because this is how I felt. And I was like, that when that moment happened in the movie, everything clicked for me. Where I was like, this is phenomenal because the places are turned. This is how the women feel. The women who have the majority are treating the men how it is in the real world, and it just shows like there's always this conversation of like when it comes to whites and blacks, and white people, are the majority, and they have mistreated black people for hundreds and thousands of years, and it's always this conversation is like, what happened if things were different? And a lot of people think, oh, the
Mm,
blacks would be better, and I was like, I don't think so, because there's history in Africa where the blacks treated other blacks bad. So what would stop you guys from doing
mhm,
that to the whites if they didn't have the technology? Because literally, whites only are ahead because they came with guns first. If they didn't do that, then none of this shit would happen. It's
mhm,
kind of that same conversation with men and women of like if women do get control and they do become the president and they do get majority in the house and they do get to start legislating these laws, are they gonna continue to be equal? No, it's not a thing. And the movie wasn't trying to solve the problem. It was just showing that there's a problem there. It's clear as day. We've talked about it multiple times. We've had breakthroughs, and then things go back to status quo.
mm, yeah.
And that's why the narrator said it's going to take the men about as much long as the women did to get to a certain high level, just because it just takes time for that progress, because the majority is always going to want to keep the power. So that's
Mm,
kind of where I got the ending message of the film in terms of like Barbie Land. But then
okay.
I teared up 2 times during this movie. I didn't outright
Okay.
cry, but I teared up 2 times when Ken said what he said to Barbie, when he was just like, this is how I felt, and now I'm making you feel it. And then also when Barbie chose to become a human, just the way that scene was done, and the real creator of Barbie to be the one to have that conversation with her, and her
Mm,
to see it was a lot of like, oh my gosh, things stink for women, and then like for her, as she's turning into a human, she sees all the beauty that women go through in real life and then come out of it and still choose to be in the real world. I thought all that was amazing. And the movie is just so damn stupid. There's just so
yeah.
much stupidness, like, John Cena's cameo, like,
Oh my god. Yeah, that was
so
funny.
hilarious. The
Yeah.
water not moving,
Yep.
the the dance-offs, the both of them. I
Now
don't
the
like
dance offs were
singing and
great.
dancing in
Yeah.
movies, but they did a great job, and I was just laughing. I see somebody
Yeah.
in the, comments asking me about "I'm Just Ken" versus Peaches. Sorry, Peaches still wins, but "I'm Just Ken" is a
Peaches.
great song. That should win an Oscar.
Peaches should most certainly. Was it best original song?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but Peaches got
got that.
that.
Like, I'm still throwing that
yeah.
bad boy on. I love that song.
Just because
Jack
it's
Black
simple
is
doesn't
is
mean it isn't great.
clown.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's just so many great moments that I've thought about in this movie, over and over and over. Both Barbie and Oppenheimer. Just three
Hmm.
movies have just been on my mind: Barbie, Oppenheimer, and Talk to Me. The ending of Talk to Me, the entirety of Oppenheimer,
Yeah.
and a lot of moments in Barbie. Just how funny it
Yeah.
was. I will say that to your point of I don't feel the whole Twitter thing you were saying. I don't
Hmm.
feel that way, but I'll say that the breaking point for a lot of people is America Ferrera's monologue. And I almost was like, oh, I don't like this,
I was there.
because I've
Yeah.
heard that speech a bajillion times in different versions, maybe not as long. The only reason why I didn't end up hating it was because the way it was used,
Hmm.
because it went back to the silly and they were using it to like break the Barbies out of their spell. And I thought, okay, there we go. If it was just that speech and all the Barbies like, yeah, let's take the Kens, then I was like, oh, that's corny. But
Yeah.
the fact that they did that and it was like, hold up, and they made a little Snyderverse joke, which I was just like, leave
Yo,
Snyder
I was
alone.
not expecting that, but that was
Me
funny.
neither. That was funny as hell. And I'm a
Yeah.
Snyderverse fan, and I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I'm not a Snyder cultist. I'm a
Those are
Zack
different
Snyder
people.
fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are different kind. That's a different breed of people. But I was just like, damn,
Yeah.
you guys kick me when I'm down, huh? And I just love the moments of them just breaking everybody out of the
Oh
spell
no.
and putting back the institute. Like, all that stuff was really funny, fun.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I just put
I
together
love
that
the movie.
Snyder
What?
versus WB, and this is WB, so WB just
Took a
yeah.
shot.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um,
That's unfair. Not,
that's
and I'm
why you're
not
sitting
blaming
there
Barbie
like,
for. I'm not blaming Barbie for that. I'm saying
no,
WB. What are
so
you doing?
Yeah, y'all
Yeah,
let that rock.
yeah,
That's still your product that you're making money off of.
right. And it's a person who you
And
work
it's
with
supposed to be
whose
taking a
daughter
Snyder cut
passed
off
away.
Bats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then
Everything they've
and that's
done with him, like that's why I don't want them to restore the Snyderverse because it's like I don't want him to have to deal with those people anymore. Stay on Netflix, make Rebel Moon,
yeah.
blow it out of
Looking forward
park,
to that.
make a better Star Wars movie than Star Wars have been doing. But yeah, overall, I really loved the movie. Overall, my gripes were I think they could have did more with the real world. I think that America Ferrera and Ariana Greenblatt performances weren't up to par with the rest of the cast. Unfortunately,
Okay,
more
I would
Greenblatt
agree.
than for
I don't
Ferrera.
think that's her fault.
That's very possible. Yeah, they didn't give her enough to do. She went from bratty to like, tell help please. I was like, wait, where did this transition? You just saw Barbie World and you're like, yeah, let's go. I've worked with teenagers. They can be really like flippant like that. So I guess,
That's fair.
but I understand people's valid reasons, just like yours, not to like this movie
Mhm.
because it is very pink. It's very bubbly. It's bubble gum. It is a movie about with like the message. The movie doesn't work without the message. And I can see people not liking that. Like Oppenheimer is just a film. Like,
Right.
yeah, there's messages in it, but it just works. It works without you getting the messaging.
Mhm.
Barbie, if you strip the messages away, the movie just doesn't work. So I
Yeah.
can see why people don't like that because some people just want to go to the cinema and escape. And also, the trailers didn't advertise the film to be like that. Like
Right.
people didn't know going in that all this was going to happen. I knew because I heard a report that once they go to the real world, it becomes deeper. So my mind was prepared for that, but I didn't know how far it was going to go. And
Mhm.
I enjoy those kind of movies. So
Can I give it a little bit
that's
of credit
kind of
though?
my thoughts. What's up?
One of the best metaphors that they used in the movie was when Barbie
Mhm.
goes up to the top floor where Will Ferrell and those guys are, and they try to put her back in the box. I mean, if that's not the greatest one of the best metaphors I've ever seen on screen, I mean, literally
Yeah,
try to put her back in the box, put women
box.
back in the
Yep.
box. So that was phenomenal. That is phenomenal.
And for her
So
to
the
like
movie has a
realize
lot
and
of great
feel like it's
parts.
like
Yeah.
it didn't feel great. Like
Hmm.
also, I don't think Will Ferrell was the right man for that role. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I think it was just a weird role. What
Yeah.
what happened there? Like what
Uh,
was that supposed to be?
It's supposed to be a commentary on how Mattel has treated Barbie and how they fumbled the bag, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And Mattel has even talked about like when they saw it, they were like, "But we trust you, so we'll let you do it." But they weren't super keen on it because it's making them look bad.
That's not even where I was expecting the movie to go in terms of when they were going through different doors. I actually expected when one of the doors opened for them to go, like just see briefly like Lego World. Because one of the things I said during the trailer was the fact that Will Ferrell's the leader of that
Mattel.
Lego World thing, Mattel, and also leader of Barbie thing. I was like, wait, are these worlds connected? Um,
Mm.
so
Yeah, that's because they want to do like a universe or like multiple Mattel stuff. That would have been an opportunity to have a gag where she like runs into Barney and then runs
mhm,
into this and trying to get away for just for a quick second and then
yeah.
yeah
But you know what? I'm actually happy that they didn't do that
yeah
because it stands on its own. You know what I mean?
yeah
It's not because that's a very Marvel Cinematic Universe thing, which is expected in a sense. All the reporting of that movie would have been about. Did you see that cameo? Is there a universe
mm,
happening? And it wouldn't have been about the movie, which admittedly I said I didn't enjoy, but I'm emotionally mature enough to see the good of it. Yeah, man, that's essentially how I felt about it. I do think that my
yeah
mind has changed a little bit in terms of oh, that was the intent of it. Like the intent was it for it to be a mirror and not necessarily a straightforward this is what it is. I think the more I've talked to people about it, the more I've been like, oh, okay, so Greta Gerwig did that on purpose in terms of not in terms of like the messaging, but in terms of the way the Barbie's acting reflecting the real world. So I'm a little bit more like lighter on that. I do still feel like that speech for America for it stopped the movie for me. It was just like the movie
super
just
on the
halted.
nose
Yeah,
yeah
and I know that they alluded to it when they said Margot Robbie's the wrong person to deliver this message about being ugly.
that was
However,
hilarious.
I still felt like, nigga, please, are you serious? So it was, you know what I mean? But that's it, man. That's all my thoughts on it. I'm like I said,
Yeah,
I'm so happy that people are enjoying it. I want people to enjoy the things that they enjoy.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be the second $1 billion film of the year.
What's the first?
Mario.
Oh, Mario was fun. Mario was a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'm happy that it's doing well, man. I think that if people like it, they should have more of it.
You notice that the two fun films of the year are the ones that are gonna get to billion.
Hey, right? That's usually how it happens, though. But these are
Yeah,
even more fun than the typical fun movie. I mean,
yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is phenomenal. But if it ain't the saddest movie I've ever seen, I mean,